Good evening, everyone. Being 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the Coos Bay City Council meeting to order. Would you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
United States of America, which stands and justice for all.
Welcome. Troy Cribbins and Carmen Matthews will both be virtual. Jacob Niebergall will not be attending this evening. First item on the agenda is public comments, and we have quite a few. All right, so I'll read the attachment that goes with the public comment criteria. The public comment period is intended for the public to share ideas and concerns. It is not intended for the interactive discussion with council. There may be opportunities for public comments during specific agenda items that require a public hearing. Members of the public are requested to confine their remarks to questions or issues under discussion during this time. During any designated comment period, individuals shall not engage in personal attack, shall not impugn the motives of any speaker, and shall at all times while in session conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. No person shall make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or unauthorized remarks or become boisterous while addressing the council. So we do have a public hearing tonight, and I see most people here are for that public hearing. So I will call you at that time for the public hearing unless you want to make a public comment now, which I wouldn't suggest for that item. So is everyone all right with that? Okay. And if you're not on here, you still have an opportunity to go ahead and make a public comment if you wish. So the first person will be, let's see, Scott Cooper. AYA, public comment? Nope. Okay. Dean Lundy.
Good evening. I'm glad to see everybody. In my comment, I'm just so glad that we're talking about the speeds on 101 by Teakwood and like that. Most of us are aware of the fatality we had recently. We've been warning ODOT that it's a setup around that corner, but we have a golden opportunity to actually have a discussion with ODOT about speed. And last week or so, Mike and I went to the city council meeting in North Bend, and in my comment, the title was IGM, and in the fire department we had a term, I got mine, IGM. So evidently, North Bend got 2 new crosswalks on Newmark. They put me down as living in North Bend, but I don't. I live in Coos Bay. They got 2 new crosswalks with the safety island in the middle on Newmark at 30 miles an hour speed limit on their road is 2 names also. It's Newmark Avenue and 54 West or something like that. So they got 30-mile-an-hour speed limit with 2 beautiful marked crosswalks, I think paid for by ODOT, and they threw us under the bus. Once you leave Washington Street, they don't really care because the whole waterfront is taken up by the Indian, sovereign nation land. It's all fenced off, and there's only a couple businesses there. But they come around our corner, and I've watched, and I don't think ODOT actually did a study of the speeds through there because there hasn't been a gas station ringer, or I haven't seen anybody out there with a speed gun or anything like that. And so I would say we have an opportunity. The trucks are always going to do, the truckers are really safe drivers. They know what it takes to slow their trucks down. But you've got these hotheads that are just flying through there. And I'm advocating to slow it down to 30 miles an hour. It's inside the city limits. We've got that the new Planet Fitness across the way on the old tank area there, and I want to build a park on the other side with a picnic table and a yacht club and a marina, and people are going to be going back and forth. There's nothing there now, but if I put a picnic table over there by the tide gate, People will want to cross and look at the river. It's just beautiful. Anyway, 30 miles an hour, I would say just say no, because North Bend got 30 miles an hour with 2 brand new sidewalks. And they threw us under the bus, I think. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for staying within the time frame. It's a 3-minute time frame. Who's keeping track? Christine? Yeah, but they can't see that, so. Okay, but someone will say 1 minute for everybody so they know. Thank you. All right. Mike Powder. Because I would have difficulty seeing that or hearing it, or both.
You want to start the timer, get up there, Mike.
Thank you. Okay, start the timer. Hi, everybody. I've been sort of absent. I've had a new knee put in, which I'm working on. So a few more weeks and I'll hobble around. And as soon as I'm better, I'll probably get the other one done.
Good to see you.
Yes, good to be here. I saw the first meeting. I was actually in the recovery room at the hospital when I watched it on TV, so I couldn't get involved, but I certainly saw how it went. But I like the fact that we're getting some discussion going, some intelligent discussion going on 101. You know, I looked at the report and they're clocking people doing 63, you know, and then like I read that, you know, at the meeting that the police officer said people are 13 miles over the limit, you know, they're well in the 50s. It is a dangerous road. And if we cut it down to 30, it's going to cost people a few seconds, but most people are going to go 35 anyway. You know, it just seems to be accepted that people speed. But it's definitely good to see some action on this. And I'm hoping ODOT could take a look at it. You see, currently within North Bend and Coos Bay, there are we each have about 4 speed zones in a short distance. You know, there's 8 speed zones along that whole way. You throw in a 40, that's going to give us 10 speed zones along the way. You gas pedal, gas stop. However, it's sort of nuts in my estimation, but hopefully they'll get it worked out. And, you know, we're not really looking at a big area. You know, the little speedway they've got there at 45 miles an hour that comes into Coos Bay, it keeps people rolling fast. And, you know, the whole road, hopefully we'll get some changes done on that. People are going to moan, though. Your phones are going to probably go off the hook with people screaming and yelling. People called me a few names, too. I think I even got called a liberal. So, oh, heaven forbid. So, you know, it's got nothing to do with it. You know, it's just a safety issue. But anyway, thank you all for keeping this fire burning. You know, hopefully we'll get some results on it.
We'll keep hoping, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, the rest will be at the public hearing that we're going to have on the EOA. And so we'll go go on with the agenda. Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of the Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month proclamation. And I think Lucinda's going to read it if I remember. Is that correct?
History of this proclamation?
Sure. So Indigenous Peoples Month is celebrated every year to recognize Indigenous cultures, contributions, history, and traditions. The history and culture of the city of Coos Bay has been significantly influenced by the surrounding Indigenous tribes, whose customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of our rich history. The city of Coos Bay was built upon by the Indigenous peoples, and this area has greatly benefited since our founding in 1853 from both their contributions and the resources. And with that, we have for the last several years, oops, time's up. The council for the last several years has passed this proclamation in acknowledgement of their great work in our communities.
Thanks, Nicole. I appreciate that. With that said, I will proceed with reading the proclamation. Whereas Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month is celebrated every year to recognize Indigenous peoples' cultures, contributions, history, language, tradition, arts, and land. And whereas the history and culture of the city of Coos Bay have been significantly influenced by Indigenous people, and we recognize their ongoing exercise of inherent sovereignty through dedicated stewardship, preservation of knowledge, teachings, language, and traditions, and are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout our shared area. And whereas the city of Coos Bay recognizes and honors the ancestral homelands of the Indigenous people affirming that our city, established in 1853, is a continuation of their enduring presence and invaluable contribution. And whereas the city of Coos Bay acknowledges the ongoing significance of tribal restoration efforts and honors their sustained contributions to the city. Indigenous people have enriched our heritage and continue to add to all aspects of our society through their generous sharing of culture and their continued practice of teaching economic, environmental, and cultural sustainability. And whereas in celebration of Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month, the City of Coos Bay wishes to encourage everyone to join in recognizing the vibrant diversity, accomplishments, and invaluable contributions the Indigenous community has made to our society. We extend our gratitude to all local organizations working in collaboration with and in support of the Indigenous community, including the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, the Siletz Indian Tribe, and the Coquille Indian Tribe.
Now, therefore, I, Joe Benetti, Mayor of Coos Bay, City of Coos Bay, do here proclaim the month of November as Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month. Encourage all citizens to join in this special observance of and acknowledge the rich history, language, and cultural heritage, contributions, and achievements of Indigenous people within our community. With that being the case, I need a motion and a second to approve this proclamation, please.
I move we approve the proclamation designating November 2025 as Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proclamation of an Indigenous People Heritage Month proclamation. Any comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thanks, Lucinda. Okay, next item on the agenda is a public hearing. So Chelsea, you want to get us started on this, please?
First,
Background,
Mayor,
go from there. Yeah.
I would ask if you would go over the land use language. There's a script you should have. We have to read some language.
Yes,
Thank you.
I got it. So do you want to, I mean, just, you don't want to make it.
I can I can go over just a brief. This will kind of be staff report. So when you get to that part, this is what this is. So our economic opportunities analysis, we are, the proposal is to adopt the 2025 economic opportunities analysis, which will include amendments to our comprehensive plan, economic goals and policies under chapter 7.5 to align with the updated EOA. An EOA, it's a long-range planning tool. It's used to forecast economic growth, and part of that is looking at the lands that you would need for your forecasted economic growth. So that's what we get out of this analysis. It is a requirement under Oregon statewide planning goal 9 that municipalities regularly complete this analysis to plan for specifically economic growth. Our current adopted EOA was done in 2009. We, the city, started working on this project over a year ago, working with Echo Northwest as a consultant. It's been informed by a public advisory committee that was made up of residents, property owners, business owners, affected agencies, including but not limited to representatives from both the Coquille Indian Tribe and the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, as well as a council representative and a planning commission sat on those committees. They met 4 times over the course of the project to provide input. Additional stakeholder feedback was completed through one-on-one interviews, focus groups. We had an online community survey and conducted joint work sessions with both Planning Commission and Council. So this has been out there for a while. Council will recall back in September, the Economic Development Strategic Plan was adopted. That was a piece of this work, and the EOA is kind of the basis for that. And the difference between the two is the Economic Development Strategic Plan is like an action plan, and it can be adopted by council outside of land use procedures. The EOA is part of our comprehensive plan. And so to adopt it, the reason why we're doing it now is because it has to go through the legislative land use process. And that requires public hearings before Planning Commission and Council. So Planning Commission did conduct the initial public hearing in October. They received testimony. That testimony was primarily, if not all, focused on references to the potential expansion of the port. Staff reviewed the testimony, provided responses. So in the staff report, you'll see in an attachment, there's a record outline. And within that, on October 14th, there's a link to staff's responses to the comments. We received additional testimony in advance of tonight's public hearing. I reviewed that and don't see anything substantially new from what was presented to Planning Commission. So I think staff's responses remain the same, and I'm sure we'll hear people talk tonight. And if council wants, we can walk through staff's responses. You can ask questions, but ultimately, Planning Commission has recommended council approval of the land use application with enactment of the proposed amendments by ordinance. So that's where we're at. I guess I would, I'll defer to council. You ask me whatever questions so please.
So why don't we wait and ask questions after we take public testimony? So what I'll do is I'll go through the procedures, and so I'll now open a public hearing on land use application 187-25-000-114-PLNG. Proposal to approve and enact an ordinance text amendments to the City of Coos Bay Comprehensive Plan today, November 4th, 2025 at 6:17 p.m. My name is Joe Benetti. I'm the mayor of the City of Coos Bay. The City Council will make a final decision on this application based on the complete record, including the testimony. Let me get this down. Testimony received tonight's public hearing. So these proceedings will be recorded. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with the Coos Bay Development Code and State Law, ORS 197.797. Specifically, city staff will first present the staff report and recommendation. For public testimony, I will ask to hear from the people who would like to speak in favor of the proposal. Then I will ask to hear from those in opposition to the proposal. Finally, I will ask the people who have a neutral comments or questions about the proposal, neither for nor against, will have the opportunity to speak. City staff may then present additional material recommendations based on the public testimony. At this time, I would say, council, this is where you would ask the staff for any questions about any public testimony. After each presentation, I may ask for questions from the commission. For anyone wishing to speak, we're asking you to use the sign-in sheet which you have and have provided. But as I mentioned, if you're not on the sign-up sheet and you want to speak, we'll let you sign up and then speak to make sure everyone gets their time if they wish. When called upon to speak, you must state your name and address for the public record. We ask that each speaker limit themselves to no more than 3 minutes. Christine will be regulating the time frame. Please remember that all presentations will be timed. You will be informed when your allotted time is expired. We'll let you know when you've got 1 minute left. All speakers exceeding the time limit will be asked to immediately conclude his or her remarks to be fair to everybody. To minimize repetitive testimony, organizations are encouraged to have only one person speak for that group. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case tonight, but if that is, just let us know. With other members of the organization standing to show their support. Each person may testify only once unless called back to the podium at the request of the Planning Commission member, but this is not going to be it. This is going to be the City Council member to respond to a question. Thank you for your cooperation. So with that being the case, you already made your presentation on the staff. I mean, do you want to add anything to it?
Just to reiterate that council has the full record before you in tonight's agenda packet. And so, and that's been presented. And if there are any questions, well, I'm happy to talk more about it.
So if in the packet, I hope everyone saw that there was comments made at the Planning Commission, and then Chelsea or staff, I'm not sure who, but there's a response to every question that was asked during that process, and we have it in our packet. So, okay. So I'm just gonna, but we just go ahead in the public hearing first before I go ahead with the conflicts of the council, right? And read that part, or I need to do that now?
I think usually it's done at the beginning, just to make sure. Yeah.
All right. So the next thing I need to do is have conflict of interest and ex parte contacts and biases. The City Council is required to disclose any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts with that we have with the proposed applicant, that is, with whether we have any financial or personal interest in the proposal, and whether we have spoken with anybody about the proposal outside of this hearing. So at this time, do any council members wish to make any disclosures? Anyone? All right. So now we'll move on. Are there any challenges on the ex parte from the audience? On the conflicts of interest, ex parte contacts or biases related to a member of the city council? Anyone from the public? No? All right. Okay, required statements. The state law requires me to tell you a number of things at the beginning of the hearing. First, there are the applicable substantive criteria that apply to this application are contained in the notice of the public hearing, the written staff report, and will be identified and discussed in oral staff report, ORS 197.7975A. Second, your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to this application, ORS 197.7975B. Third, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or the other people an opportunity to respond may preclude an appeal of a decision on this application based on that issue. This is ORS 197.7975C. The city council will make a final decision. A decision of the city council may be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals, LUBA, CBDC 17.130.1105. All right, so we will now hear from staff applicant who will go over the staff report. You already did that. We will now hear from any other person in support of the proposal. Each will have 3 minutes. Is there anyone that wants to speak in support of the proposal? Doesn't look like it. All right. We will now hear from any person in opposition to the proposal. Each will have 3 minutes. And so I believe everyone else is in opposition, so we'll start. And Christine Moffitt, you are first.
Before the timer starts, can I ask a question of Chelsea? I'm unsure of what your report, did you include all of the testimony that was provided to the city council?
Yes.
Okay, and then the new comments as well, they have that, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that was uncertain to me, so I don't have to reiterate everything. And before you start the timer, I just want to say one more thing is that there's an awesome opening of 3 tribal artwork at the Coos Art Museum. In case you haven't been there, it is worth attending and spending time. So
Yeah, I heard it was wonderful. And Christine, just so you know, we did get your testimony in the record today.
okay. So I'll summarize what I'm saying is that in evaluating the report that was done by the consultants, I'm pointing out some errors in that I think are substantial errors that should be corrected, and they're regarded statements about the funding of PCIP, and I've given you the actual wording in the pages that occurs on. I did that in October at the meeting too, and it was determined that it wasn't to be changed, but I really think it's an important document that needs to be changed. And there were several references there. And in general, in terms of the reworking of the goals, also like to highlight, to me, the removal of a couple of goals that I think are very relevant to the city's future and planning, and that was Goal 5 and Goal 6. The Goal 5 was recruiting sustainable industries and industries that provide green-collar jobs. There's nowhere in the revised document that this word sustainable is used in reference to any green collar. Not that has to be there, but I think it's a really important concept that should not be omitted. And there's no rush on this because there's still a couple of years before the 20-year clock expires. And I just urge you to go back and try to rework this into a document that really represents who we are and what we believe in. The other goal is Goal 6, which is the maximum use of Coos Bay's unique geographic recreational assets and cultural heritage. To me, just to comment on what we're doing tonight is recognizing Indigenous peoples' heritage here. There's again no reference to that, and also the importance of the Empire District, which is a vital part of the history of our Indigenous culture here. I have referenced that the PCIP project is, and you all know, is something that will impact the area of the Empire District and is proposed to be built on the Hollering Place on the Spit. So I don't think that you need to have reference to PCIP in this document. It's still a dream at this point. And the 2009 document, even though the Jordan Cove was looming at that time, there's no reference to the deep draft channel for Jordan Cove. So I urge you to go back to the drawing point and bring in some more of these elements that we've been talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next is Ashley. Yeah.
Alrighty. Good evening. For the record, my name is Ashley Oddicke. I'm a Coos County resident and a representative of Row Climate Justice Organization with a heart in the with an office in the heart of downtown Coos Bay. We're here tonight to make a comment about the economic opportunity analysis. We applaud the city for doing an effort for developing an analysis that was meant to really reflect the future growth for the region. While we agree with general goals like strengthen and diversify the local economy, we are asking for a continuance due to goal 3.9 that specifically was to develop a deep draft channel. Listing this within comprehensive plan and associated policies may have implications on future permit application processes. This expresses bias for projects such as the Pacific Coast Intermodal Project that's listed in the we request for the city of Coos Bay to exclude the specific language, from the policies of the document. And, the EOA lists language, such as, PCIP could, support upwards to jobs, which right now at this time is speculative without any citations to support that number. And as the project currently stands, it's neither fully designed or started the permit process. And, as the city of Coos Bay, in my opinion, has always been a projecting what's possible. Really ask for this plan to be, reflective on that. And just as what Christine mentioned, as a former organizer on the No LNG, it feels Jordan Cove LNG was a more economic viable project, had the FERC citizens, and at the same time, the city didn't list it as part of its economic future. And so why was that proposal included, and why should the PCIP be included if there's no plans or designs? Also just it was mentioned that the last information was included because the port's involvement in the process. I just like because we were part of that process. And something I wanted to stress is for our organization Row Climate, we really focus on a framework of principles of a just transition, which includes set of processes and practices that build an economic and political power to shift from extractive to regenerative economy. And ultimately what that really means is that instead of just take ecology, the ecosystems in the earth, we learn to how to work with it and how to benefit the people at the same time. So I'll wrap this up by just and the Greek etymology means home. So when we think about ecosystems, ecology, and ultimately So as the city passes this EUA, how do we want the management elected for the generations to come for the next 20 years? So, thank you.
Steve Miller?
Steve Miller, 1556 North 20th Street in Coos Bay. I found several deficiencies in the economic opportunity analysis. There were several statements in the body of the text. I can't cite those numbers, but I counted 3. There were statements of support for the proposed channel modification relating to the PCIP. The PCIP has achieved no permits. There's been no environmental impact statements either. It's difficult to see that statement of support is justified, and I would suggest revisiting that. There was a discussion of automation relating to the indirect jobs that could be forthcoming, as the proponents claim, that would result from the container terminal here. There was a real glaring omission in the discussion of automation, however, and that is the fact that all of the equipment, all the lift equipment that's being manufactured and sited in container terminals today can be retrofitted for automation. It's being built that way and can be readily automated. Automation can cut the staff required direct jobs on site 50 to 70%. It's typically the case. And there are quite a few automated ports already in the world, partially or fully automated. Every lift activity is being done by automated methods, by people at consoles remote from the container terminal. The travel and recreation was discussed, and there is a good economic opportunity for the city and the region. I found that discussion short and really not very focused, and it does not consider the possibility that there may be some conflicts with a big industrial project that would be located in the same area, much of that recreation and travel focus for our area. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's what I'm at here. All right. So, yes, that's okay. So these are the ones that were on the list. Does anyone want to speak for or against the EOA?
It's interesting because.
Counselor Matthews, can you hear us now?
She says they're back.
All right, Carmen, did you guys hear us?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, it took me a
Right.
second to find the button. Can you hear
I
me?
can hear you guys. I can hear
Yep.
you and see you fine.
Yep. All right.
All right, great.
Harv, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I guess where's Nicole?
She's talking to IT.
All right, so we can go ahead and continue then. All right,
Yeah.
so we went offline for 4 minutes from what we can gather. So that would be Karen Richardson's commentary and part of yours, Dean. I'm sorry, but we have it for the record here. It just wasn't online virtually. So anyway, with that being the case, so now Chelsea, we're going to hear from you, right? On any
Yes.
rebuttal.
Yes, so I'd like to share my screen, just be able to look at the application, the proposal. And here we are. If I can do that. See if it shows up. So here we go. So this is the land use application. It's part of the staff report and it walks through the proposal in a legislative format, what's existing and what's proposed. Anything that would be deleted is stricken in strike through. Anything that's added would be underlined. So I would just wanted to point out some things. Ashley Road Climate mentioned concern about goal 3.9 and the deep channel modification. And what I wanted to show is that length, so this existing goal 6.2, this language right here is the exact same language as proposed goal 3.9. It's been in the comprehensive plan. It's been an adopted economic policy. So the city has always been supportive of developing a deep draft channel, not just because of the PCIP project, but because of all the industry around the Bay, just because that is a part of our makeup, right? And it does not preclude the fact that industries have to align with our environmental Coos Bay Estuary Management Plan, that they need proper permitting from either the local or state federal agencies. But I just wanted to make a point of showing you that goal 3.9 is actually in the current plan as goal 6.2. It's just been renumbered and reorganized with the updated goals. Similarly, there was mention about removal of goals 5 and 6. So you'll see up here, the goal 6 is just maximizing our geographic recreational assets and cultural heritage. There are policies related to that, such as, I was going to try to find where I put it. I spoke to this in my comments, but let's see if I can find one. Sorry for not being terribly prepared here. Whoops, that's what I wanted. So it's been promoting ecotourism activities, exploration, enjoyment of natural surroundings. That's been renumbered, kind of revamped to proposed policy 1.5. Also, I'll note Christine had mentioned in some comments removal or reference to the medical center being a focus. That is now just renumbered as I just saw it. Policy 1.4, continue to facilitate efforts to enhance Coos Bay as a medical center for the surrounding area. So generally, I just wanted to touch on, there's maybe some confusion. A lot of things are carried over from what's adopted. They've just been renumbered, reorganized. So we still emphasize working to promote the medical center, still emphasize working to promote ecotourism, our cultural heritage and assets. We've always supported the Deep Draft Channel. And so then I would just touch on Christine Moffett mentioned concern about the $100 million grant. That has been termed a grant, a bond, all different references, but the point is that the state is supportive of the project. We know it's a project coming. The city under Goal 9 is allowed to consider that potential project in the regional impacts through our EOA, through the safe harbor provisions. And so when you see comments that say, oh, this is conflicting with statewide planning goals, or it's not in line with Goal 9, that's not accurate. I have no doubt that Echo Northwest did complete this work completely consistent with the requirements of the statute. There is mention about the number 9,400 jobs. In the plan, it very clearly says that's the regional projected impact, and that only 600 to 1,200 of those would be in the county, assuming that Coos Bay would only see a portion of those. So we're only assuming a very small portion of what would be projected, and is potentially going to change because the information contemplated, put into this plan is taken from a snapshot of time. And it's not, this isn't a plan about a specific project. It's just a plan about potential economic opportunities. Anything else that I wanted to just say? I just think it's important to remember that this is a planning document. It is specific to our economic growth and forecasting. We are permitted to look at those potential large impacts like the PCIP project. We're doing something similar looking at our urban growth boundary. We're saying we think this project has the potential to impact our housing needs. Therefore, we want to look at expanding the urban growth. This economic opportunities analysis, when we do the same, it results in showing that we'll need additional commercial industrial lands. And in and of itself, it's a document then that gives the city flexibility in the future. If something happens, we have a document to support the need to maybe go out and amend our urban growth boundary to take in more commercial industrial land. So this document was intended to be neutral on the port project, to consider it, not support, not oppose. It does take into account all these regional factors so that we, the city, have the most flexibility in the future. If economic growth happens, we're prepared to be able to plan for that. If there's any other specific comments or questions that I didn't touch on, I tried to cover.
I just want you to clarify the PCIP. Everyone keeps mentioning it, but I never see it in this document. It doesn't reference PCIP specifically, and everything gets referenced at 3.9. And 3.9 just says the deep draft port and development efforts of transportation linkage and the deep draft channel accommodation, which is already in our comp plan.
Correct. And this EOA does not approve the project. There are many other permits that will be needed. It doesn't support the project. It's just contemplative of all the potential expansion that the Port of Coos Bay could have.
There was discussion when they met with the group that I believe that's in here, but it's
Well,
not. Go ahead.
Let's look. Let's just see.
Okay.
Let's see.
I remember seeing a reference too, but when I read the document, I read it as an example of, this is an example.
Correct.
Not in support or against. And that was my question. There's another, probably multiple layers of processes before this comes back to this council or the future councils.
Right. So
This is just using it as an example.
If I may,
That's what you're clarifying.
Correct.
if I may, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
This is Troy Cribbins.
All right.
I also wanted to clarify too, that language is almost verbatim and directly related to ORS statute 777.065, which essentially says that the state recognizes that assistance and encouragement of the enhanced world trade opportunities are an important function of the state, and that the development of new and expanded overseas markets for commodities exported from the ports of this state has great potential for diversifying and improving the economic base of the state, and therefore development and improvement of port facilities suitable for use in world maritime trade at the ports of Umatilla, Morrow, Arlington, the Dalles, Hood River, and Cascade Locks, and the development of deep water port facilities at Astoria and Coos Bay, Newport, Portland, and St. Helens is declared to be a state economic goal of high priority. So to me, we are just right in line with state goals, our regional goals, and it's not related to any specific project, past, present, or potentially future.
Debating right now?
You can ask questions. Sure.
Oh,
Well, I mean, we have
can I just share
clarification
that?
You need from Chelsea, which is fine, but
So Counselor Kilmer and I both sat in these EO meetings, well, how many? 8?
At least 4, but there may have been more. We had work sessions together, so there's been multiple
Yeah.
opportunities.
This was a major topic of discussion during those meetings, and I think the group disagreed often on whether or not to include the projections related to the port. But how I read this, then I do think there's, I mean, I see page 2, 24, 26, 28, there's references to, it doesn't say PCIB specifically, but rather talks about the Port of Coos Bay project, are used as examples, along with things like maritime related activity, high-speed internet, tourism, and access to outdoor recreation. And Chelsea, or Councilor Kilmer, we were very careful to not put all of our eggs in a PCIP basket with this project and to say this will happen, but rather here's some examples of different things that could happen in the region, including this port project.
And I just wanted to highlight right here, like this speaks to that. The plan is, we're very clearly saying the city should not rely on that project. And the project is referenced, but it's always in there's a potential. And so we want to consider what that impact would be. But we should not rely on this project. We should just plan to leverage any potential outcomes of the project. And so that's clearly stated in this plan.
But it also doesn't necessarily matter, right? Because the whole point is that the projected job growth of 1663 or whatever the number, around that number, was literally about commercial lands, correct?
Correct.
So it doesn't matter. It could be included and it could be excluded, and it doesn't really matter. The point being that, like, the whole point of this analysis was to get us to a place where we could identify if we needed more industrial land.
Correct. And part of that need, though, would be taking into account what that impact could have on City of Coos Bay.
I agree with your, it doesn't matter. And with that said, I don't think we should reference any reference to PCIP or a future port project. We saw the impacts of that. We saw for 20 years, we talked about Jordan Cove, and it's damaging to relationships. It's damaging to what we should be focused on. And so whether I'm for or against a project, and it really does not matter to me, because I'm trying to be very neutral by putting the words down on paper in this report, it does imply that somehow we are planning for it. And I just don't think that's right.
But so if I'm Chelsea, if we approve this, we're approving this ordinance in front of us. Am I correct? This one right here, that's whatever that will be, an ordinance amending the City of Coos Bay comprehensive plan. That's what we're talking about in adopting or not adopting.
Adopting the EOA and enacting the ordinance by those changes in the comp plan.
Which is before us.
Yes.
Goal 1, 2, 3, 4, all these in here, right? Am I correct? 2.1, 2.6,
Correct.
2.7. 3.9?
Yes,
Anywhere in here, does it reference the PCIP?
not in the comprehensive plan amendments themselves within the EOA
Right,
document. Yes,
which is what we will be adopting or not adopting tonight. That's what we're doing.
right. I mean, what the city will then rely on is the comprehensive plan goals and policies that are adopted.
From the EOA report
From
that
the
was
EOA
given to us that references PCIP.
Correct.
Thank you.
So, okay, so if this gets passed, this would go to the comp plan.
Yes.
And then that comp plan, and there's a report that will reference the PCIP with the comp plan.
Well, the economic opportunities analysis has taken into consideration port expansion as
Right.
part of an impact to the city's economic development.
And so, and they reference the PCIP, but it is not specific to that. It could be to any development of the port.
Right, it references the potential PCIP.
This council
So-
has we've worked so hard to be unbiased on this. And so that's my concern. If we keep PCIP in this, it changes all the work that we've done. Sorry, I'm not being very eloquent, to be unbiased. We've worked so hard, right, not to be biased on this.
I just don't think it matters. I'm happy to take it out because I don't think it matters.
Okay.
So
I don't think it gives us bias. I think it's just whether it was talking about this project or any other project, that is the project that's potentially out there, whether we're for it or against it. That is the project that's out there. We would have to look at whatever project's there and determine whether or what effects it may or may not have on the city, good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, I don't think that's the case, Troy, in my opinion, because if you look at 3.9, it says that we support the Port of Coos Bay and its development efforts for the transportation linkage and develop of a deep draft channel to accommodate large cargo vessels, which has been in our comp plan the whole time. Right?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But having the reference to the potential of PCIP, I think doesn't have any relevance to what we're voting on.
No, but what's in some of the report, it says PCIP, am I right?
Yes.
Correct.
So to Counselor DeNovo's point, it could equally be the complete opposite of what you said. It can be just a point of reference. That project could go away. There's still a reference in there, but it's not hurting anything. It just says, this was the project at the time, which is what we're looking at right now. This is what was stated about it. This is what we need to be able to support something of that size. Whether or not that happens or not, it doesn't matter.
Well, because my understanding going through the process was that this wasn't about the PCIP. This is about the city and the needs of the city overall. And there was a variety of things, and the PCIP happens to be one of the larger projects. But I mean, can you imagine if we were to sit down and talk about any project that was gonna bring in 2 to 5 jobs? I mean, we would never pass anything because, I mean, there's references in here on page 60 to CHIPS Act's investment in Coos Bay. Like, that's not happening. So are we just going, I mean, like, we would sit here and never get to a place where we're in approval because things always are changing.
So if I understand, that came up in discussion and through this group that we had, this came up, the PCIP, and that's why it's in the report. And then it had from Eco Northwest, it presented to us. So if that PCIP is taken out of there, does it change anything?
Well, there's 4 instances where the term PCIP is referenced, and it's purely to state that this project is out there. And so that's where we're looking for economic growth and how that could impact city of Coos Bay. So you could take the term out, but I don't think I would recommend taking the analysis of the overall impact out.
No.
Because then you have a different EOA with different findings that might suggest you don't need commercial industrial land, which then, if and when a project of that size comes, you would have to update your EOA in order to pursue a UGB amendment you'd be back at square one.
Exactly. That's what I'm concerned about, is that we have to go through this lengthy process again. If and when it ever happens. And this just is saying you have between 2 and 5 jobs, or 9,400, or 1,200, or 30. This gives us the latitude to say, if something does come along, whatever it is, this is just the example we have right now, because it is out there. Then we have we don't have to go out and do another analysis to create what we have to be able to deal with other issues, which is, homes, industrial lands, whatever it may be.
Mayor, you've got, Counselor Matthews and Counselor Cribbins with their hands up.
Carmen.
Hello, everyone. So as I'm listening to everything and alluding to Counselor DeNovo's comments about non-bias and the work that we're trying to do with being non-biased, personally, I feel like 3.9 is quite prescriptive. And I feel like that would help with maybe reducing the potential for perceived bias, which is maybe an amendment to that would be supporting the Port of Coos Bay and its development efforts for transportation linkage and development opportunities that may arise in the future. And it's just more open to what might be possible with the port and supporting working with the port, whatever that might be. But it's not as prescriptive. I feel like that would help at least me feel a little bit more confident in the fact that we're not speaking to a specific project. I realize this is already in here as part of it, that we are in support of a development to develop a deep draft channel to accommodate large cargo vessels. I mean, I have my own personal opinions about that. I believe the community has their own personal opinions about that. Those aren't necessarily part of what we're talking about at the moment. I think it's just, I want to support the port in ways to develop our area for the economic benefit for this community. It can look very different from what is happening today, tomorrow, or in the next 10 years. So that would be my comment.
Well, okay. Troy, do you have any other comments?
No, I hadn't taken my hand down. Again, I don't think we're supporting any one thing, and the wording in there is really just what is directly in line with the ORS state statute.
So I don't have a problem if there's a way that we could take a specifically PCIP and still keep the intent of development to happen, that we could accommodate. Because remember, when Eco Northwest came here, they did an analysis. We do not have enough commercial or industrial lands. That's the bottom line. And we adopted what they had stated, that we need more industrial lands and commercial. So if there's a way to do that and not feel biased in one way or the other. But I really have a problem with this not having a deep draft channel to accommodate the port, because right now we have Southport, 220 jobs, GMA Garnet, Roseburg Forest Products, Oregon Chip, Oregon Terminals, and we got the new one, the pellet mill down there. These are all going to be predicated on a deep channel port. And so I cannot see why we wouldn't have that in there, because this is economic development. And that's what this is about, economic development. It's not about a specific project. And so we already have these facilities that we have already on the bay generate 308 jobs, right? That doesn't count the trucking, that doesn't count the ships, that doesn't count any of that other economic impact that it makes. And for us not to recognize that is something that we've had and will continue to have for a long time. So, but a specific project, and if I understand correctly, if the PCIP happens, they have to go through the permitting process, they have to go through the estuary plan. There's a lot of other things that they have to go through that we will have nothing to do with potentially, right?
Well, certainly not through this process. I mean, we may be pulled into an estuary management plan amendment but I mean, very little. And those are permits that are from outside agencies.
But this does not further the PCIP in any way.
Correct.
Listen,
I agree with you, Mayor Benetti, that if we can remove any reference to PCIP, I think that's what you said, I could get behind that. You just referenced, I think, 300 jobs, and those are important jobs to this community. I just happen to have a report here that says tourism jobs in this community are 2,130 tourism jobs in this community. So there are other sectors of business, and I totally agree that we need to be diversified. And I also agree that we need to acknowledge that we do have a deep draft port here. But quite honestly, this is old language. This is old language. It's been in here since for a really, really long time. And so I know, I see where Carmen is coming from. I too want to support the port and its projects and support the port and in economic development efforts for transportation linkage and to develop a deep draft channel, period. I don't need to accommodate large cargo vessels and increase shipping activities and water dependent uses. But that's just my 2 cents. I think that this language, the 3.9 that we keep referencing, it's been in here for a really long time. And I appreciate that Councillor Matthews brought it up to change.
yeah, and this also references tourism.
Right.
And references a lot of other things too.
Right.
So it's trying to be, encompass all the possible economic possibilities that we have in the area. That's what it's trying to encompass, I believe.
I get that. I just don't know if there's any tourist related businesses that were outlined in here in this report, but PCIP is. That's my point. If we can just remove it, I could feel a whole bunch better. But sitting at this dais right here, I have to make a decision that has future implications for this community. And I personally cannot get behind PCIP. We dealt with Jordan Cove for 20 years. And whether you were for it or you were against it, we all spent way too much time talking about it. And it was an industry that never came here. And it was a complete waste of good time.
All right, so Chelsea, Sarah and Lucinda both mentioned PCIP, and does it need to be in there? But can we still take that out and still leave the inference of the possibility of a development?
I think I've noted the 4 places where it was noted, referenced, and it could be replaced with just general potential expansion of port facilities.
So it would say general expansion port facility instead of PCIP.
Yeah.
In all 4 of those instances.
I think we could do that.
Okay, is everyone all right with that?
Does it take any teeth out of the document for the other processes that we'll have to do, potentially have to do? And not having 0 to 10,000?
I think that those numbers need to stay unless council is okay with not having a document that provides that flexibility in the future to amend the UGB. If you want to remove all references to what makes up a current potential project expansion from the port, that's going to be an entirely different EOA. So if
I'm talking about the 4 PCIP places that it's stated in there, and you said you could replace them with general port development.
Right, and so without referencing this project by its name, we'd still need to reference what is currently out there as potential
But that could
project
be, I mean, we
expansion.
can be talking wind energy and all kinds of things that can be run in those numbers, right?
But we have to have a number in there.
Well, we're not going to.
Correct.
So if we look at page 24 of the EOA, which is like 24 and 25 is where there's quite a long narrative about it. Could you potentially just remove so it would be the last paragraph on page 24, the Port of Coos Bay, North Point Development, etc., all the way through. So you're still leaving the above reference about some potential project.
This is where, I mean, I suppose it would be good to have Echo Northwest available to respond to that. I think a lot of this is supporting the reason and justifying why you're using these numbers. And if you don't have a good supportive reasoning for that, then potentially the state could say, I don't buy it, right? So it's up to council what you want to include and don't include. There's just potential implications.
My curiosity is just that there's no other place in here where it literally says the port shared these details during Eco Northwest interviews with Matt Friesen, Patty McEwen, and Alex Bolin, and reference where each of those individuals work. And there's no other place where individual people were interviewed for any sort of project. So it does feel preferential.
I worry that we change anything without getting an answer from Eco Northwest.
Well,
Yeah, I am too.
okay, the four things that we're talking about, now we're going somewhere further than that. So if we did that, Chelsea, then we have to have another hearing on this, right?
Correct. We can have them respond in writing or continue the public hearing and have them come and speak to it.
I would prefer they come to and speak to it.
Oh, yeah, I would too.
So hasn't this been before us already?
It's been before council a few times.
And we adopted this.
Well, you adopted the development strategic plan, but not the basis, this
Right,
factual basis.
but this information was in that, what we adopted from Eco Northwest.
I don't know that it was the same. This is the factual basis that supports that action plan.
All right, council, so what do you want to do here? I think that we need to be careful because here's the thing. I mean, I understand the consideration or concern about PCIP. I'm not as much concerned about it because I think it's a tool to get us to places that we need to be. We need more industrial lands. We need more commercial lands. And for PCIP to be adopted, or they have to go through regulations that are totally separate from this. They're going to have to they have to go through the county. They have to go through the estuary plan. They got to get permitted through the county. And we, as Chelsea said, would touch just a piece of that and really not have a lot of influence over that decision. So I understand if we can take PCIP out and still keep everything in because it allows us to continue on. What I'm afraid of, if we go too far, we're not going to be able to prove that we need industrial lands and commercial lands, which also this UGB that we've been pushing for a long time and that we need. And now we got DLCD on board to do it. We got a grant from them to finish it up and it justifies it now. If we change this, then that changes the possibility of getting the UGB, which we desperately need for expansion, if nothing else, for housing. So that's my concern. I'm really worried about how we're going to tilt this, situation that it could put us in a hot spot that we don't have justification for expansion in these areas. That's my concern. Taking out PCIP and putting in what Chelsea says, I think that's fine. It can meet the same criteria. But we start messing around with the numbers and everything else and all the inference to this stuff, then we have a problem, I think.
I can live with that. That I don't think I could have said it better.
Well, and in this instance, and I wasn't here for I was here, but I wasn't sitting at this dais for the LNG conversations. But it seems like the difference
You
here
wouldn't want
is,
to sit here.
no, I don't.
I wish you would have been here.
It seems like a difference now is that, to your words, Chelsea, we're leveraging this in our favor. Whereas in the past, maybe that wasn't the case.
Correct.
So I'll try it again and see if I can get consensus here. If we take the PCIP out and put in the place of it, what did you specifically say?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the potential,
Port development projects, I think is what you said.
that
Chelsea.
sounds good. Potential port development projects.
So how's the council feel if we replace that?
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I don't love the perception of preferential treatment. I'm in agreement with you, but I do think that we can leverage this to get to our ultimate goal, which is expanding local housing supply, expanding commercial lands, which is gonna lead to economic growth regardless of whatever the port does.
And
And-
if that project ever does come, some part of it comes before this council, we can say that we worked really hard to be unbiased. We've never provided a letter of support through the process. We've never done any of that because we learned from our experience with Jordan Cove. And I think perhaps that's what I should have started with is I think we all have a whole bunch of learnings and things we wish we would have done differently. And I think that's what I'm really trying to convey. So I can get behind Mayor Benetti's recommendation.
Okay,
I do want to say that I don't think anytime you have communication and long conversations and talks over a long period of times is a bad thing.
Yeah.
No.
Because you have to talk about it. Even, I don't ever see that as a waste of time, as was referenced tonight. Things take time sometimes, and to get to the right answer or whatever it is, you have to have those discussions, and sometimes they just take a lot of time. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. I can get behind what you referenced, Mr. Mayor.
thank you.
Councilor Kilmer, my apologies if I had referenced waste of time as where I was coming from with that is if that was in reference to my remark, it was more about it started off as one thing and then it changed as another, and then another company bought it. And every time this community tried to understand the project, it changed all the time. And it was incredibly frustrating. That to me was the waste of time. So I apologize if that was offensive.
Did we get did Carmen weigh in on this?
I
Yes,
have not
Carmen.
yet.
You want to no, not in this one part. Yeah, go ahead, Carmen.
Yeah, I can get behind your recommendation. Sounds fine. I'm more comfortable with that.
Thank you.
I have a motion.
No, wait a minute. No, this is a different situation, Troy. So hold on. Okay, so now we don't have any other questions, right? Now I'm going to close the public hearing
Sorry.
at what is it, 7:19, right? All right, 7:19 p.m. Get the right pages here, right? Where am I at after that? Too many pages. All right, City Council deliberation decision. Now it's the time to say we already did that. Okay, the Planning Commission. No, so this is going to be the City Council. After conducted the initial public hearing on this matter, recommends the City Council approval, right?
Right, so City Council is making a final decision. Planning Commission has recommended approval.
All right, but with these changes.
Correct. You can make a decision subject to changes. Correct.
All right. Did you,
have to state the change.
do you have to specifically state the change?
I think removing reference to the PCIP replacing with potential port development projects is sufficient.
Okay, so we're fine. We can do the roll call.
Yes.
All right, Christine, you're on.
You need a motion.
Oh, you need a motion or was it sufficient?
So I meant sufficient to move on and do the motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Make a motion, Sarah, or whoever.
Troy, you ready for it?
Do it, Troy.
You ready for me now?
Yes.
Yes, please.
I make a motion to approve the land use application 187-25-000-114-PLNG based on the information presented by the applicant, all evidence in the record to date, and the recommended findings of approval as presented, and enact an ordinance confirming those amendments authorized to the Coos Bay Comprehensive Plan with the changes discussed in tonight's public hearing of removing all reference to PCIP.
And
Replacing with.
put in potential port development projects in place of PCIP.
And replace with all potential port projects.
No, potential port development projects.
Potential port development projects.
All right.
Second.
Okay, Christine.
An ordinance amending the City of Coos Bay's comprehensive plan to repeal and replace the 2009 economic opportunity analysis and to align economic goals and policies with the updated 2025 economic opportunities analysis. Counselor Matthews,
Aye.
Counselor DeNovo,
Aye.
Mayor Benetti,
Aye.
Counselor Kilmer,
Aye.
Counselor Stevens,
Aye.
Counselor Cribbins.
Aye.
Ordinance number 588 has been duly enacted.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for your testimony and your consideration in being here this evening. All right, the next one, item is consideration to adopt resolution 25-36, amending council rules. Nicole?
Thank you. Based on the last conversation, this one might be a little bit shorter. We're just making a minor amendment to your council rules, which identify rules for the city attorney shall attend all of your meetings. You might recall that we recently modified the arrangement with our city attorney, and he is working on a contractual basis with us. And so he would attend if we give him advance notice. Otherwise, we would come to him afterwards with a request, and he may attend in the future, or we would come back with his response in order for you to make a decision. So we're just modifying that in the council rules so that they accurately portray what we are now doing. That's what's presented to you.
Yeah, any questions from the council on that? So basically it's Nate, doesn't have to be here or city attorney, doesn't have to be at every council meeting, right?
Correct.
I move that we adopt resolution 2536, amending the council rules to reflect changes in the required attendance of the city attorney and council meetings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 25-36, amending the council rules. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is further discussion regarding ODOT speed study and pending reduction of the speed limit along Highway 101 between Fir Avenue and the northern Coos Bay city limits. Nicole, so why don't you give us an update of where we were and what we did, and now it's back to us because I believe North Bend has done something differently, and we have to decide how we want to proceed.
Correct. So at your October 7th city council meeting, you were presented with an opportunity to either concur or not with ODOT's study. Their study resulted in a recommendation to reduce the speed to travel along Highway 101 from our northern city limits to Fir Avenue from 45 to 40 miles per hour. Because they were also going to be considering a reduction of speed based on their study in a section of North Bend's Highway 101. Our meeting happened first, and then North Bend came along, and they made a slightly different motion and adopted a concurrence, but with a recommendation to further review for a reduction to 35. Once those were both presented to ODOT, the city of Coos Bay was then asked whether or not we would like to maintain our concurrence with the original ODOT recommendation of 40 miles per hour. If we wanted to jump in with North Bend and their recommendation for further review. If we wished to reverse our concurrence and actually request review on our behalf and require the ODOT review our section, or if we just wanted to submit a statement in support of North Bend's action. So we didn't know all of those to be an option at the time. So we are presenting you rather than making that decision at a staff level, because we appreciated the conversation that happened that night. There was a pretty robust conversation in relation to the speed limit. We did ask also if any of this would come with some cost to the city, and we do not believe, based on the ODOT response, that there would be a cost. So you do have some options, kind of like a clean slate, if you wish to reconsider your choice in regards to the ODOT speed study.
So I wasn't here during that discussion at that meeting, so we need to decide where we want to go. We had recommended 40. North Bend had suggested 35. If we want to support 35 with North Bend, we can, or we don't have to. But there you go. Maybe we should make never mind. I won't start creating more issues. But anyway.
I'm not in favor of it. I read the letter, the information that was provided. One of the things that was mentioned in there was a fatality at where the city of North Bend ends and Coos Bay begins. I don't think that was a good reference because that person was, if I recall correctly, was going way over the speed limit. And I don't think they were even close to 45 or whatever it is. I also think that ODOT maybe didn't do their due diligence when they were looking at Teakwood Plaza, and perhaps should have required a traffic light there. And that would automatically reduce some of the issues that are happening there that we've heard about over there. That would slow speeds down, but I'm not in favor of 35.
As someone who works for the Coquel Casino and Resort for 29 years now, there have been a number of near misses at that intersection with the signal. And I did read in the notes that the tribe was not consulted with the Oregon Department of Transportation. I do not speak for the tribe, but I can tell you as an employee, we are always super mindful. We try to provide transportation back and forth. I've had near misses myself crossing that intersection. So I would actually like us to consider pursuing that 35 mile an hour speed limit for that reason.
I'm also in favor of 35.
Troy, Carmen's got your hand up. Carmen?
Yes, I would just like to voice my support for lowering the speed limit to 35 in concurrence with North Bend. I believe that having a uniform speed limit between the two municipalities that share this main thoroughfare makes the most sense. And as a business owner on 101, I have seen a lot of issues coming in and out of the various places that are various businesses and our current village where I reside in terms of my business. There's a lot of issues. It's dangerous. I try to cross the street there. It feels like you're taking your life into your hands in a way that doesn't feel supported for all types of travel and transportation, which I'm alluding to walking and bicycle pedestrian access. So I am in full support of reducing the speed limit and would be fine with making a motion if needed.
Troy?
I am opposed to changing the speed limit on 101 through there. I mean, its purpose is for moving traffic. That being said, I do agree with what Carmen says. There are businesses growing, and I think we want to move towards more pedestrian and bike friendly. And more than anything, I like the working with our sister city in a unified front. So I would support in that direction, even though I don't know, did that make any sense?
Yes, I think so. All right, so I also agree with 35. So the question being, before you make a motion, Carmen, which we'll let you do, are we going to appeal it? Is that what I understand with the Save North Bend, or we're going to write a letter in support of North Bend?
You have the option to how am I going to say this right? So you have the option to reverse your previous concurrence, which would be appealing the speed study. You have the option to write a statement in support of North Bend's effort to request a further review. Or what's the third option? I'm feeling like I'm missing concurrence. Yeah.
Concur with what Sandy said.
Just hold your concurrence. You've already stated.
So if you want to change it to 35, Carmen, we could write a letter of support of North Bend, or we can
Reverse our concurrence and appeal fully.
reverse our concurrence and go ahead with the 35. So whichever one you want to do.
I think I'd like to go with option one, reverse or appeal the concurrence.
Yes, you would want to reverse your concurrence and appeal the ODOT study.
So that's a preference, Carmen. If you want to make
Yeah.
that motion.
I guess I would move that we repeal or reverse our concurrence with the original recommendation and add our support to North Bend's review of the recommendation to reduce the speed limit from 45 to 35 miles per hour within the northern from approximately Fur Avenue to the northern city Coos Bay city limits.
Carmen, I don't think that's what we actually said. And I, of course, always want to support our sister city, North Bend, but I think we wanted to do this separately. Perhaps it would have a bit more teeth. So it's not writing a letter in support to North Bend's project. It's appealing.
Yeah, you would want to repeal your previous concurrence and appeal ODOT's speed study.
To 35.
And
Okay.
I mean, the appeal is going to require them to do a review,
Okay,
essentially.
all right. It's easy
All
to
right.
do. So move.
It's lazy.
So moved. If that works for you.
Yeah, it works.
Christine.
Second.
It does. All right.
Okay, thank you.
We need a second now.
Second. There it is.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. And is there any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed?
Nay.
There's one opposition. All right. All right, thank you for that discussion. We're at city manager's report. Nicole.
Thank you. So just a couple items here. We left the last meeting with a request that we come back with any updates to the library steering committee process. And so between then and now, we've had both our building official and our fire inspector walk through the building. And the findings were minimal, not safety concerns noted. Both noting that their credentialing doesn't necessarily give them the ability to speak to structural analysis, and that would require an engineer in that regard. And so we already kind of knew that that would maybe be where we would lean. We've reached out to the previous engineering firm who did that 2014 report to see what it would take to update that report. So we have a baseline and then where we stand today. Don't have that feedback just yet, but that's where we're at there. It's not deemed as unsafe in regards to both our building official and our fire inspector, both for staff and citizens use.
Okay, so we're waiting for a structural interpretation, or we're going to see what it would cost, or whether there's any.
Yeah, we just need to get some more information from them
But
first.
it's not going to be any better. I mean,
It's not going to be better, but they may be able to identify if there are truly structural concerns.
Okay.
What we've looked at has been, related to maybe doors, windows, ingress, egress kind of things.
Right.
Typical fire inspections,
Okay.
walkthroughs, those kind of things. Structural, engineering folks will look at things a little bit more in depth, and then they will also compare it to that baseline that we had before. So.
All right, is everyone all right with that? Okay.
Okay, great. As many of you know, we've been working on the Inglewood School project for quite a number of years, and I'm happy to say that the transfer of the property concluded last week, and the new developing team has now ownership of that property, and we will actually be presenting at a event next week to share this project, speaking to all the work that's happened from all the folks who've been involved. I do understand the developing team will want to do a
groundbreaking when we're ready for that, probably in the spring, and make sure that the community kind of all knows the number of folks who've touched this project over the years and the impact that it's been having all those minds working together. So just want to know, let you know, like it's been a long path, but we made some huge headway last week. So.
But the groundbreaking is going to include the neighborhood. That's what I
Yes,
understood.
they very much intend to
And for the public's information, this will be 34 units of housing.
workforce.
Right. And
yeah.
it'll be a variety of, it won't be just one set of homes. There'll be some duplexes, there'll be single family, there'll be ADA. There's going to be a different dynamic in there. And I think it's going to be great. So anyway. Good. Yeah.
Just a question, because I've seen it, once the press release hit the media, there's been a lot of discussion. Can you explain the difference between workforce versus low income? Because there's been that debate real quick.
Yeah, and I would have to say also, like if you're in the industry, affordable and workforce doesn't even apply to what they're going to build. What they build is a range of homes that are accessible to really kind of first-time home buyers and folks who are in the market's workforce. And for them, that means in Coos Bay that those ranges could be anywhere from 275 to a smaller home, up towards 375 for a little bit larger home. So those market points are the points we're missing kind of in our housing stock right now. So.
And these were identified in our housing needs analysis
Correct.
as components that we needed in our community. And affordable, which we hear tossed about a lot, is up to interpretation. What's affordable for me could be very different for the people sitting in the back of the room versus people sitting over here. So I think that's an important distinction to make, but this is an exciting project to finally get it to this line.
Yeah, again,
Thank you for your
industry language, there's affordable with the capital A, which is traditional affordable, and that's a income verifiable kind of thing, versus what they call affordable lowercase, maybe, if we can use that. That's what the community can afford. That's how they approach affordable, this new group. So yes, thanks for that opportunity to kind of expand on that. Just sticking with the housing motif, we have been working through establishing the moderate income revolving loan. Again, we're hitting that middle market range and getting very close to finding some concurrence with OHCS. But I wanted to acknowledge that it is out in the world now. We've had a couple of publications.
So this is Timber Cove.
This
is what you're referencing?
This is they will be the first developer who maybe would access this funding, which is available through the state of Oregon. But there was a release with KEZI. I think the Oregonian ran that. I was asked, we are one of 2 communities in the state of Oregon who are doing a pretty heavy lift to get this up and running. So I just wanted to say we are working on it diligently. It's a almost full-time job to communicate with OHCS and the developer and kind of see how we can make this fit. It's a really interesting legislative action. I'm really happy that they opened up this door, but it is really kind of complicated to kind of push out in a way that makes sense locally. So working on it. I appreciate you guys are always willing to lead. You're just getting acknowledgement for that out in the state of Oregon. So, and then I was just going to note, I haven't actually spoken to the team yet, but I'm hoping to be off Friday and Monday. I'm going to add a little fuzzy critter to my home that I'm going to go pick up. And so I'll be here. I haven't asked who might be able to cover on Friday because I will be traveling, but I'll be here Monday. So that's the plan. That's what I got.
You got approval from your landlord, right?
I did. Thank goodness she's here and can hear that, but yes.
All right. All right. Council comments. Troy.
No comments for me tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Carmen.
I just want to basically say I'm really excited that housing is being worked on in this community. It's something that's been a huge goal for this council and for this community in general. And I'm super appreciative to all the work the staff is doing. As you referenced, Nicole, it's a heavy lift on city staff, and I'm just very thankful that everybody's on board and making this work. I also want to extend my gratitude to the developers that are helping our community in this regard, because it is desperately needed, and it's just really exciting to see that happen. I also want to just say I appreciate everybody working on solutions to make Coos Bay a more pedestrian friendly and multimodal friendly community. As someone who lives in the downtown urban core, walking to various places is part of what I do, and making our community safer for people to traverse our community in a safer way has been a goal of mine. I think we see that in the economic outlook analysis, making it more pedestrian friendly. We hear it from the community over and over and over again in all of our public input surveys through the park system. And I am just very, very grateful that we're starting to make some efforts. And I realize that there is as someone who travels by car, it feels a little bit sluggish, but just on behalf of someone who has a family and who owns a business on 101, I just want to say thank you for hanging in there with us as we try to move towards a different and safer community. So that's all I have.
Yeah, and I think kudos need to go out to Carmen for the developer in Inglewood. We had an LOC meeting, League of Oregon Cities meeting here at Coquille. Well, at that time it was the Mill Casino, but anyway, the Coquille Resort and Casino. And Carmen knew this individual, brought him to us to have a discussion, and now he's building this complex in Inglewood. And so, thanks, Carmen. I appreciate that. Lucinda.
Pleasure.
I wanted to first commend the staff too for all the work. And I love this council. I love that we can disagree and we can ask pointy-headed questions of one another and the staff. And at the end, we're going to leave this room knowing that we've done our work. And so I just want to say thanks. And thanks to the citizens who are bringing their comments to us to allow us to make the best possible decisions for this community. And with that said, I would like to mention a recent, some work that was done at John Toppitz Park. So the city, if the council remembers, the city received a $75,000 grant back in December of 2024 for, it was basically removing underbrush. It was a defensible space with designated buffer zones, and it was intended for safety. And kudos to the city for receiving that $75,000 grant. That work began, I think, in August, and I think there was an announcement. We did do a press release and got an announcement out to the people. Being rather familiar with that area, I went back there after the work had been complete, and I was really stunned and shocked. When I went back into the area along the park, it felt as if one side of the park had been clear-cutted, and the other side of the park is the beautiful natural space that we would expect a park to be. So I reached out to Nicole and I asked, did this come before the council? Did we review this? Did I miss something? And it had not come before the council because it fell under that $75,000 designation. I then asked to see the contract because there was some conversation of a 30 to 50 feet is a good defensible space, a good buffer zone, if I understand correctly. In the contract, the scope of work is, if I've read this right, it's one sentence. It says mowing all underbrush as directed on safe boundaries, avoiding watershed and steep banks at John Toppitz Park. That is the scope of work for this project. There's nothing about the 30 to 50 feet, and I think there was an email that said even a maximum of 100 feet. And I know the staff wants to do good work for their city, and I know that this council wants good work to be done. I'm incredibly disappointed at how, if this is true, if this is the scope of work that we gave to the contractor, then shame on us. I would recommend that we consider, so this doesn't happen going forward, is that anything that is touching our parks goes before the Parks Commission. The Parks Commission could simply review any of these projects and ask the questions I hoped I would have had the opportunity to ask had I known better. And so that we don't make these mistakes going forward, because I do think it's a mistake. It really feels as if one side of the park has been clear-cutted. And a good friend, a wise man said to me, who worked for state parks for 28 years, and I want to make sure I get this right. He said he had two jobs. The first job was to protect the park from the people, and the second job was to protect the people from the park. And we did not protect the park from the people. We went through that park, and I've done tape measuring. I mean, if you walk through that park right now, there are spaces that are much larger than 100 feet. There are spaces that are right up to people's fence lines, 40 feet. There is brush. Part of this project was to ensure that we were, not having combustible items. And if you walk through the park right now, there are, and I don't know if they're done, so forgive me if they're not, there are piles of brush all along the park. And so, so I would challenge this council to consider that going forward. And I would challenge the staff, because we have such an incredibly talented staff, and yet we're going to make mistakes, but I'm going to work really hard to make sure that we don't make this mistake again, because I believe that this had happened in at Mingus Park, holy hell would have been raised. Holy hell would have been raised, but not at John Toppitz Park. And I know the huckleberry will grow back. I know the things will grow back, but we also affected the habitat there, and that's discouraging. It's no longer a natural space from my perspective. So I would ask the council to consider that.
All right, thanks, Lucinda. Stephanie.
If I can just offer a couple of comments on that, I actually did some walkthrough too, and was very surprised and a little bit disappointed, because not to bring up the library again, but when we were talking about the library, one of the reasons that people did not want it in that park was because it was, and it had to be developed and devised, is because that park is very different than many of our other parks. And it is, I think you said it. It was designed to be more of a natural area. And so I think we need to be careful and cautious with that in mind. It's easy to go through and mow things down. It gets done fast, but that's kind of what I felt like happened in the park. That's what I witnessed. But anyway, I wanted to concur. We have a Parks Commission. I think they are in the parks constantly. And I don't think that's a bad idea to bring those things to our Parks Commission if they're willing. Speaking of the parks or vacant property, I have seen some things about camping, and I did bring that to the attention of the city administrator and the police chief. I hope that those were reported by citizens, the homeless camps. even if it is on private property, I want to make the statement that it does affect the properties around. I know that you all are working very hard, and it sometimes seems like you get one thing done and then you're over here trying to deal with it because it gets moved around. But I think we have to stay on top of things that are illegal, that become nuisances or even environmental issues near our waterways or potential fire issues. We have to stay on top of that because we don't just represent one group, we represent all the citizens, and that is a concern of a large portion of our community, are those homeless camps that are getting bigger and affecting the properties around them. I also saw the warming center email that came out today, and I am concerned because we have had some problems at warming center at the Methodist Church. I know we need to have something. We are getting to that point where the weather is changing. I mean, just getting here today, I was soaked between my car and the back door here. So we need to have some of those things, but I want to, that church is right in the middle of, very close to residential. So I saw a lot of things outlined in there in Amy's letter, and we want to stay on top of that. We want to be mindful that we have a population that is living out in that terrible weather, but also at the same time, how are people getting to those locations when they're all in residential areas, and be mindful of that.
But that is a secondary location, correct?
Correct. And then just my final comment regarding the speeds. I think, you know, whatever happens, just traveling to Bandon today, I was doing over the speed limit. So I would probably be one of those people that I'm recommending. I was doing over the speed limit, but I was not like way over the speed limit. But I was passed by somebody doing probably 20 miles an hour faster than I was, 75 on a straight stretch on Highway 101 out south of town. And people are speeding, and I don't know if it's because they don't feel that there's a consequence to it. We can do whatever we need to do to try and make our community safer. I think everybody sitting up at this dais wants our community to be safe and multimodal, and, you know, walking from a parking lot on Highway 101 across from the chip pile, a car sped past. And my thought was, what if that person had lost control? My whole family would have been wiped out. So I understand that. But at the same time, if you reduce the speed limit, and people are still going to go over the speed limit, including myself, I did it today, without any regard for the weather or the conditions or how close they are to people, we're going to have issues. People need to consider slowing down and giving themselves the extra time they need to get somewhere so they don't have to speed through town. And so that's my soapbox, and I will get off of it now.
No comments for me tonight.
All right. I just want to say, on the homeless camps, I mean, I've been on this before. We got the group out at Vega, and now maybe these other ones on Ocean Boulevard. But Chief and Nicole, we've gone in and cleaned these up before, these camps. And so what's happening is we put an expense out or time, and then these public places, or private, places, don't maintain them. Correct me if I'm wrong, we have an ordinance states that they are to regulate these things. And if they're going to have homeless there, then they have to have restrooms, and they can only have 3, and all that applies. Am I correct?
I don't know that all private properties that applies to, because I think we were very specific to where we would allow, the type of properties that we would allow that. We identified nonprofits as the folks who could have 3 units. we understand and agree that we expect our private property owners to maintain a certain status of their property, especially when they're adjacent to other residential areas. We definitely want that compliance. And I think Chief would speak to the amount of running around we try to do to ensure that compliance, especially now while we don't have a dedicated community resource officer, which we're working on. That element really helped improve some of the folks who are out there regularly, just making that contact, creating those relationships, connecting to resources, all those things. So we're working on that.
But here's an example. I know that we've cleaned up the Vega property once, twice, I don't know, however many times. In Empire, behind Gussie's, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, that's correct. It's that general area. The city hasn't actually gone on there and cleaned up Vega property in terms of utilizing city resources to clean that up. We have contacted Mr. Vega and had him provide some resources to clean that up. The city of Coos Bay and my police officers are out there enforcing the laws and violations that occur on private property. But what the city has done, and I think we're constantly attempting to do, is make sure that our public spaces, the areas that we're responsible for, is cleaned up, and utilizing public works, police to enforce those. And then private properties, what we're really trying to do is connect up with the property owners and create kind of a partnership saying, hey, this is the ordinances, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to come in compliance. We're there to help, but it's ultimately your responsibility to bring your place into compliance. And maybe to speak to Councilor Kilmer's statement about the property. I know which property you're referring to, and I will let you know, I did reach out and did that very thing with the property owner. And I think we have a good line of communication, and we have a plan maybe moving forward for those particular campsites.
So do we have, aren't there some of them though? And I mean, I understand that we've had, I thought with the Vega property that we're not getting a lot of response from this owner to help maintain things. And I've heard from citizens that are about that property that are fearful and have issues. And I'm sure you've gotten calls on it. So is there something that we can do to facilitate this problem? I mean, you know, if there's a cost associated, can we not put a lien against the property, or can't we have to put security out there and make them pay for it or something? I mean, why are we, the city, where, I mean, our police force is taking care of what needs to be taken care of, like you said, on the public lands? Why do we have to take care of the private?
Yeah, and I think that is really ultimately where we kind of, you guys as counselors kind of probably need to determine in terms of, you know, we look at how far do we want to take a place, and how much compliance do we need to gain to ensure that area is cleaned up and safe. What we're going to try to do with the codes enforcement position is just that we're going to have to go through and assess these places and start off with trying to build that communication with that property owner and try to gain compliance. And then at which point, if we cannot gain compliance and they are at a point where we would bring that to the council, you guys will ultimately have to help us decide and prioritize and determine how much money we want to put into the enforcement and gaining compliance into those said places.
I think we definitely need to, I think we need to address it. And again, I think we do, how long we have to let it go, how long it happens, how many times we have to go there. I mean, there's got to be something that, you know, I mean, and these are out of state owners, and we are taking care of their problem. And, you know, they're trying to sell their property, but they don't want to take care of it. It's infringing on our citizens, and I don't think it's right. So.
Can this come before a work session? Is that what you're wanting, Mayor Benetti?
Yeah, I think, come with some suggestions, Chief, and maybe Nicole.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. One of our questions is, where would we want to fund this from? What, you know, that's a kind of a challenge. Some places we have a funding source, you know, this might be related to an urban renewal focus, but there are many areas in the city that we don't have that. And so we'll need to, that's part of the issue. How do we identify, how do we prioritize which ones we want to put dollars in, place a lien on that we might not see?
Maybe if you come with solutions or some recommendations, that would be good.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can have this discussion, but I think that we need to start not forcing, but we need to get them to come to the table and lien the property financially. Or if there's another way to do it, I don't know, maybe we can talk to Nate or see what happens. So anyway, that's my comment on that.
Mayor Benetti, I wanted to ask, sorry. So Councillor Kilmer agreed with any projects that
Yes.
that touch the parks, go to the Parks Commission for review. And she concurred, but I didn't hear any concurrence from the rest of the council. So I was hoping to hear how the rest of the council felt about
I just
this.
assume, excuse me, and I shouldn't do that Nicole would probably bring it before, let's have it come before the work session. We can have a discussion about it. How's that?
In relation to concurrence for parks related projects coming.
Yeah,
before
let's
the
go
Parks-
before the Parks Commission for a recommendation to come before the council.
Okay,
We'll have that discussion,
okay.
right? And then we can, and staff can weigh in and give us their opinion and where we're standing, and maybe we can find a solution that works for everybody.
I mean, I'd like to acknowledge that parks projects are generally discussed at the Parks Commission. I am not aware the level of discussion that happened in very specifically at the Parks Commission with this project.
Right.
I would believe we would have talked with them about it because it is within the parks, but I can't speak to the level at which.
So we'll find out and have the discussion with this homeless issue that we're dealing with for private property.
I would also challenge this, and you and I have had this conversation. I think had we done our due diligence a bit more in the contract language, we could have avoided, some of this by saying, here's the zone 30 to 50, but simply to say, cut the underbrush. And then I feel like it's been clear cutted. That's remarkably different than what I think it should be.
Agreed. I think the 75,000, trying to fit as much as we could without
agree.
that detail,
Yeah.
like, I think that's kind of where we landed. If we had a larger sum of money, we could have, again, all challenges.
All opportunities.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, and I'm going to end on, again, I'm very pleased and appreciative of the council on this economic land use planning issue that we did. Again, we have our differences, but we always come to the table and seem to work it out. And the staff always is very tolerant. And so I appreciate that too. And so anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, and I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.